Know you've heard the saying, go big or go home. The question is it true in your business? And the answer is no, right? The really smart way to grow your business in a big way is to actually go smaller. And today we're talking about the nano business. Here's a blueprint that you can use to grow your business without having to be so big. Because if you think about it, when you have let's imagine your house. If you have a really big house, there's a lot to maintain and a lot of upkeep. If you have a really tiny place, there's less to maintain, less to manage. And this is how you want to look at your business. You can have the profits and the income and the revenue of going big, but you don't have to be a huge behemoth company such as Amazon or Walmart. And in fact, for most of us, that's just not really a possibility. So we're going to show you some of the different ways using some different mathematical principles and science and different theologies that you can understand how to actually make this work. So let's go ahead and dive into the topic today. And we're talking about how do you actually have a micro focus, get really narrowly focused to have macro profits. Now, I wrote a book on this. If you want a copy of this book, just go ahead and ask for it and just type micro down below and we'll get you the book. So this is all about not magnifying, but shrinking, getting narrowly, singularly focused on the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference in your business. We talk about this all the time in our principles as far as we're looking at the SOAR formula. The S in the SOAR formula is all about singularity. It's that singular focus on one thing. Build that to $1 million and then you can expand. That's really the key. So narrow focus, macro profits. And it's a lot easier to make a lot more money when you do have a narrow focus. So there's the myth and there's the reality. And you want to think about, well, which one is actually true? Which one actually applies to your business? So the myth, right? The myth is that you just continue to expand and scale and grow. And a lot of people do blitz scaling and it gets chaotic. But the reality is you want a single point of focus and then magnify that. I'm going to talk to you about some different science principles that really make this work and why you can see this is really powerful in your own business as well. And so again, we're going to weigh what we hear about online, all over the internet, but what you're hearing and what people are saying they're doing may not be what they're actually doing. So let's break the fallacy and talk about what actually does work, not hacks, not tactics and fads. We're talking about solid principles that are timeless and that you can use it in any market, in any weather condition, and it will get you to your destination. So this is really the science of success that you want to be focused on. Now, which one are you using right now? That's the question. Are you using the myth or are you using the reality? So if we go ahead and look at this in a different way, let's look at it from the standpoint of, are you a noisemaker or a needle mover? And what's a noisemaker? That's somebody who maybe you're always chasing being massive, right? What's the big thing? What's the biggest market, the TAM, the total addressable market that I can be in? And maybe you suffer from commoditization and low profit margins because you're in such a big ocean that what people are doing is like, oh, I better get my share of the market. I better lower my costs and lower my costs and lower my costs. It doesn't work. And so also sometimes the momentum is just slow, right? There's just so much in this market. Trying to get a foothold on anything makes it really difficult to have any velocity, right? And it also has a lot of drag, right? So 80% of the business activity is really unnecessary. And when you're fighting in a big crowd, you're just trying to scramble, spin plates, and do everything to figure out what works. But when you're in a narrow market, you can make little shifts and you can see a monumental change. And so this is really why you want to look at it this way, right? So what's with this nano focus? You can dominate in a highly specific micro market. You don't have to compete with everybody. You can command premium pricing and get higher value, higher profits, as well as achieving more quick moves, right? You make decisions faster, you move faster, and you get undeniable wins. And of course, you can isolate what are the force multipliers in your business? What are the things that are going to make an exponential difference in your growth? And that's what you want to really look at when you are growing this. So where are you? Are you on this side where you are just trying to scrape through the crowds? Are you stuck in a red ocean, or are you actually scaling? Are you really growing? Are you dominating your market, right? Because we talk about this a lot as far as really making sure that you are the dominant player in your space. And it's all about when you look at what I like to call the power of constraints, right? This is going from your niche or your neighborhood to scale. And the goal here, it's going to shift, okay? And what happens is that the future belongs to these businesses that are sharp. They have ability to pivot quickly. They're small. They're impossible to ignore, though, right? So again, you're going to go from a smaller market, higher perceived value, higher profits, faster wins. Okay, that's really the way it works. So where are you in this process? Are you at the top, or have you come down to where you can actually turn it into a win? And it's not that hard to work in a small market, but you do have to be much better, right? When you don't have a lot of competition, people are going to notice if you are not delivering quality or if you're not delivering on your promise. So you do have to be exceptional in a small market. A lot of times in a big market, so many people aren't paying attention to you. If you miss a few swings, people are going to go, oh, I didn't even notice. But when there's just a few players, or you are the leading player, they're going to notice everything. What do I mean by this? If you ever notice a big company, like maybe Tesla, and it makes a big shift and you think, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Well, Elon Musk moves in orders of magnitude. He's going to do something and he's going to turn everything on that. And when you're the only player in your space, here's what everybody notices, and everybody's critical. So you do have to have some thick skin if you're going to play in this market, but you don't have to worry about the slings and arrows on your back like you do in a highly competitive market where you have lots of competitors. And so that's really the point that you want to get to. You're in the game to win. And when you look at it, you want to have one power framework. You just need one, okay? Now that has different components in it, and each one is going to take you to the next string and the next string and the next string. It's like laying tracks, right? You lay a track on a railroad and then you lay the next one across and the next one across and the next one across. And then you can follow that to the destination. So what are these tracks that you have to lay in your business? Pretty simple. First of all, we talk about this a lot. One offer, okay? This one offer has to be amazing. A lot of people go, oh, I have this offer and I throw out this and I throw out this, and they're creating confusion in the marketplace, and they're also creating confusion in their own mind and in the mind of your team. So what you're trying to do is isolate the 5% that really drives the 300% growth of profit, right? And you have to have ruthless alignment with your principles. So you have number one is your offer. Then you have to have the right audience. Who is the audience you're targeting? Again, narrow your TAM. Then you want to look at, what am I going to do for these people? What is this transformation that these people are going to have when they work with me? And then how am I going to deliver that? What is the workflow? And the challenge is figuring out now, where do I deliver this? Because so many times we're confronted with the fact that you have to be everywhere, but you don't. You can take one channel, scale that to 1 million, go into another channel after that, but start with a singular focus. What is your one offer? What is your one audience? What is that one channel that you're going to do? What is the transformation that you are going to deliver? And where are you going to show everybody? What is this workflow that you're going to take them through and that process? So do you see how simple it is? Remember, everything that we're talking about is about the cube concept so that you can get cubed, right? Being absolutely clear on the 4 parts, this 4 square methodology that's going to take you to your goal. Most people are operating like this, and they're completely confused, and they're spinning, and there's no solid nature that they're operating off of. But when you work with this and you have an actual clear cube that you are delivering, a clear process, transformation, delivery method, when everything is super clear, it's like your whole business is wrapped in a layer of graphene, like carbon, right? And it's indestructible. This is what you're trying to build. Now, if you don't have that, we definitely want to help you grow that and build that out. Just go to callconnie.com and we can help you build this out. So to give you a visual of what this is like and why it works and how it works, look at some of these other companies who had a singular obsession. These are unicorns. These are billion-dollar companies. Did not start off that way, but they did have this one thing in common, and that is being singularly focused on the one thing. Let's take a look at the first one. Maybe some of you have been there recently. Anyone been to In-N-Out burgers before? They're so simple. You have 3 menu items. Again, keeping it simple. 1, 2, 3, that's it. Imagine if you could know exactly what to get. Oh, I love them because they have the best fries, or they have the best burgers, or whatever it is. And then people know that because it's so clear. What about a singular problem, a singular transformation? Spanx was amazing at this, right? She just helped people get rid of those lines and the little foot seams in your pantyhose. No lines, no seams, look perfect, right? That was a singular problem that they solved. Calendly, so many people use Calendly as their calendar system. Well, guess what? What is their one function? An appointment. Book an appointment. That's it. They're not getting off into other tangents. Let's look at Dyson. Dyson had one vacuum and they made it amazing, okay? And they were relentlessly pursuing perfection, and it worked. And the Dyson vacuum is famous. After they mastered that pillar, that vertical, then they went into other things. Dyson fans, Dyson hair dryers. When I go to Florida and get my hair cut, my hairdresser uses a Dyson dryer on my hair. So why? Because everybody knows the technology is amazing. And think about your technology. Is your technology amazing that you have it so good that you can start in one vertical and take it to the next and to the next? Tesla does this. Who else can you think of that does this? And they can master one vertical and continue on to many more. That's when you're building a major big business and you can have $1 billion company. Liquid Death. There's a lot of competitors in that space, right? But they have one brand, right? What is that one brand idea that they have? So how are you fitting in when it comes to this? Do you have a singular obsession with one thing that is going to make you world famous at what you do? Hopefully you do. If you don't, let us know and we'll help you out. Okay. So this is, again, think small in order to go big, right? It's a lot like if you're looking at a field, maybe you remember this when you were a kid, right? And you could go lay out we'd go out to the playground and stuff, lay in the grass, right? And then we learned that you can take a little microscope and have the sun come in on it, and you can actually turn a blade of grass aflame. You can actually have it start to burn, right? Why? Because there's a singular focus on just one thing, and that will light up the whole world. So where is your singular focus? You want to have this blade of grass mentality about your business, not playground mentality. One blade of grass. That's how you're going to become an iconic business. You can only drive one car at a time. You can only take one step at a time. You can't take two. You can't move your left foot and the right foot at the same time. That's a hop, but that's not a walk, right? So how are you going to move your business forward? You're going to move it forward faster by doing one singular focus. And I'm going to talk to you about the haute couture process, right? So my first degree was in design, and my goal was to be a famous fashion designer, like Calvin Klein or somebody like that. And so I learned all the intricate parts of design, everything that you had to do. And you don't just like put things together. There is a process that you go through step by step by step, and everything is perfectly measured, and it happens in an order. Don't go to the next step until you complete the first one. And this little micro focus on building a business is exactly what you're trying to do as well. And it was a great discipline. One of the beauties of having different industries that I grew up and learned and study is they all teach me how to build amazing businesses. So you start with an idea. Like I would start with a design of, let's say, a dress, for example. I remember in school, I grew very tall and I didn't quite fit in, right? And so I would want to design my own clothes. I would come home from school and at night I would design clothes so I have something new to wear in the morning. So I picture, what do I want to wear tomorrow? And then I'd go get the fabric, right? And I would just drape it and put it, okay, this fabric works perfect in this style and this angle and everything else. And then I'd pin it to make it fit. Like, does this kind of get a feel for, was this going to fit, right? And then I go sew, but I sew with long stitches, right? So I can easily take it out. Think of it like the MVP of your offer. And then now I try it on with the long stitches just to see, how is this going to work? And when it's right and the fit is good, okay, then I can make the final cuts, and then I can do the final stitch. This is the exact same thing that you do in your business. So is this making sense? Any other seamstresses out there? Okay, now let's talk about this same concept and how you do it when you're designing your business and your workflow, right? So in haute couture, you're talking about the draping and the pinning, and this is where you're building the prototype. And when we go into companies and do AI workflow design, then and workforces, and we'll figure out, how do we make this work? How do we make the people and the machines work together? What we call the carbon and the silicon. Okay, so we are certified as AI workforce designers, and so that's what we're going to look at. Where's the prototype of what we want to build? Okay, then we have the basting and the fitting, and that's the test period, right? Where we test and pivot. Is this right? Is this right? And then we do the final cut and stitch. And that's where we trim away any excess and have the final integration. And so do you see how it's very similar to growing up in design? You've got to have the vision. Then you have to be able to know how to work with the different fabrics and the different models to make it fit, right? So there's a reason why when we work the runway that you have to be at least 5'9", right? They want you a certain fit and a certain size. Foot models are always a size 5 shoe. So, but when you're working in business and you're trying to grow a business, you don't always have the right model. And you have to first figure out, what is the right model for the outcome that I want? So you have the vision, now you have to match it to the model, and then you have to match it to the implementation. I hope this is making sense. So if you want some help figuring out how to integrate the model, the business, the AI that you have to have right, go ahead and book a call or just request some help. And then you can also ask for the book, right? Micro Focus, Macro Profits, and I'll get you the book as well. So here is why you have to have real clear focus when you're working with AI, right? Because there's so much complexity, right? And you want to take all that complexity, form it into the right shape, and then you can have leverage out of that. So what AI does is it amplifies the precision, not the chaos. If you're in chaos and you're adding AI onto that, you're only going to create complexity. So what you want to make sure is that you have the right constraints in place. Those are the prerequisites for you to have greater leverage. And so the engine, right? If you look at the engine and how this works, you start with define it, narrow it, test it. Then you're going to optimize and scale. Okay. So what you want to be able to do is listen to your audience. You're going to test faster, and then you're going to pivot, right? Do you need to pivot after you test everything out? Do you need to pivot? And then after you pivot, then you can iterate the next steps. So you see, it's just, this is like your flywheel of the steps that you need to take as you're trying to grow your business. And this is the engine of execution. So we come into your business and figure out, where are you? What process are you in? And is it working, or did you just patch things on top of your business? And ideally, what you want to have is a ground up business where from the baseline, you are building the right way, not just throwing things on. Okay. It's a lot easier when you're talking, for example, in design, to go out and get some great fabric and start something from scratch than it is to take an old piece of clothing and try and fit it. Like, there's people out there, they say, oh, I want to wear my mother's wedding gown, right? Ugh, it doesn't work, right? You got to change things. It's not the right era. It doesn't look good. And then it just looks sort of used by the time you get it. And so what we're saying is start from the ground up, right? Build your business AI from the baseline. That's where you're going to notice the greatest difference. And what you want to see is there's like an architecture for leverage. Okay. And this is really how you scale and how you do it the right way, but also faster. Okay. Most people are just still figuring it out and they don't know. But when you take this concept, you don't have to do more. You just do it more intelligently. And building systems that are not bloated and, piecemealed, Frankenstein, as we like to say, together, is why it works. Why are so many businesses struggling to integrate AI? It's because they're Frankensteining their business. They're just like adding things on and what's new, what's hot. And they're going from one thing to another without a vision, right? You don't put spandex on a business suit, right? You get a fine merino wool. So a lot of people are mixing concepts thinking they're going to have the same outcome. It won't work. So this is what we mean by designing intelligently. So if you want to have major profits, then what you want to do is get narrowly focused. Figure out, how do I get the one thing right? And then leverage that. So I'd love to help you out with that. And if you want the book, if you want any of the resources that we have, if you want a replay of this or the slides, let us know. Just type down below, and we'd love to help you out with that and get you really micro-focused on massive profits. So we will see you next week here on Iconic TV. We're live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Can't wait to see